So coming to the first question, difference between brainstorming, JAT, and focus groups. So we want to let you understand what is the difference between these three elicitation techniques. So obviously, elicitation techniques are used to gather requirements or to elicit the requirements. But out of all the 10 or 11 elicitation techniques, few of them have their own identity. Okay. So brainstorming are used generally to generate ideas when you have uh, got any blockage in the process. Okay. And JAT session is a collaborative gathering requirement. Mostly it is used at system requirement phase. Okay. So when you want to get the functional and non-functional requirements from the user, then you will conduct JAT session. Okay. And focus groups are conducted to get the suggestions and feedbacks from the SMEs, subject matter experts. Okay. And if you look at the table, you can see different types of aspects and how they are different. For the purpose, we can see that the brainstorming is to generate ideas. And for JAT session, you can see collaborating, gathering requirements, and focus groups it to get feedback and insights. And participants, brainstorming usually diverse group of stakeholders. And like the rule is like a minimum 5 to 8 years of experience should be there for a person to be invited in the brainstorming. Okay. And JAT session typically include project team members, stakeholder, and facilitator. So facilitator is nothing but the person who oversees the meeting. Okay. So think of him as a meeting head who guides the entire team how to act in that meeting. Okay. And moreover, developers will be the prime inviters in this JAT session. Okay. And coming to focus groups, you have representative sample of target audience or stakeholders. So to get the feedback and insights or suggestions, we will call out a few SMEs who are kind of early users to our product. Okay. So we ask them to give suggestions. So based on the suggestions, we will improve our product before we launch it to public. Okay. And then coming to format, brainstorming is conducted informal and open in a discussion. So there is no wrong idea at that moment. Every ideas is acceptable, and they will store those ideas, and later on they will review it. Okay. And coming to JAT session, it is a structured session with the predefined agenda. So it's not like a informal. You'll be having an agenda for the meeting. At the end of the meeting, you need to achieve that agenda. Okay. And coming to focus groups, it is a semi-structured discussion with moderator. So there will be a facilitator who being in gather all the suggestions from the focus groups. Coming to outputs, brainstorming, you will get ideas, concepts, and potential solution sometimes. And JAT sessions, you will get a documented requirements, user stories, and use cases. And coming to focus groups, you will get a detailed feedback, observations, and suggestions. So this is your difference between these three L station techniques. So why document analysis is important in a project? So we know that document analysis is a part of illustration technique. So why we are thinking that is very important because see in general, if you are into a project, let's say you have joined a company as a BA and you are starting to work on a project. Okay. So you don't like expect that a team will stop their work and they will teach you how the project is ongoing, right? So they will give you some documents and they want you to refer those documents and understand it by 1 or 2 days so that you can start contributing. Okay. So that 1 or 2 days very crucial for the entire team because the work is not altered or not disturbed, but at the same time new persons are joined at that same progress line. Okay. So the document analysis helps you to manage the project. At the same time, it provides valuable insight, information, and context that are essential for the project success. People who are new to the project. Okay. And understanding the requirements contain valuable information about project objective, scope, and expectations. And quality assurance means every quality details will be documented, including quality standards, guidelines, and procedure that define expectations for the project deliverables. And one more example, you can say that when a new employee join to a project, they are very eager to prove themselves, right? So sometimes they don't even look at documents; they just start contributing. But along the lines, they find that whatever they're trying to contribute is already built over the by the past team. So it is very important to have these documents and document analysis, where you won't be like uh, there is no redundant work. Okay, so it helps you to reduce the work, and it helps you to go uh, on quality work. Okay, so all the quality standards will be given in the documents, and all the expectations, all the scopes and objectives are available in the document. So you don't have to keep on asking someone, or don't have to guess the quality levels. Okay, and then what is reverse engineering? So reverse engineering is nothing but it is a way of extracting information from a particular system or a process, whenever there is no proper documentation to that system or a process. Okay, so let's take an example. When you buy a new laptop, to you like whenever you are buying a new laptop at your first laptop, consider it as a first laptop. So you don't know how that laptop functions, right? You are a bit scared to do some changes in the laptop, but still you will start working with the laptop, and in the way you will learning that how that laptop works, right? In the same way, reverse engineering is a way of extracting information from a product or a procedure, just by working with it. Okay, so when you join a company, sometimes the legacy system or the old system don't have proper documentations. At that time, you just need to go through the entire system and understand its functionalities, and then you need to prepare a document for that. Okay, so that is the reverse engineering. And most of the times, reverse engineering considered as a kind of waste of time, because right now almost every system or a procedure will have a documents for it. So when you have your own document, it will take lot of time to just go and understand function by function for the entire system. Okay, so but still it is a valuable elicitation technique to gather the requirements from the system when there is a no proper documentations. Okay, and coming to reverse engineering, there are two types: black box and white box. So black box are nothing but you will study and understand the system without understanding the internal code structure. Okay, and white box is like you will try to understand entire system with its internal code structure also. And then coming to what is observation technique. So the name itself suggests that we are observing the person. So in BA, what happens is that most of the time stakeholders unable to uh, answer your questions, or unable to uh, like come up with the exact requirement. Okay, so at that time what we'll do is that we will observe the stakeholder in a process, and identify the pain points he is facing at that process. Okay, so in this observation also we have two types: active and passive. Active is like involving direct manner engagement and interacting with the participants, which means whatever doubts you are having while you are observing that person, you will keep on uh, engaging with that person and resolving your doubts. And coming to passive approach, so you won't be engaging that person. At the end of the observation, you will discuss with them whatever doubts you are having. Okay, what is requirement workshop? So requirement workshop is a structured approach to capture requirements. So let's say in a company or in an organization, there are multiple teams who are working on a single project, right? So sometimes you want to gather requirements from the multiple team members, or you want to gather from requirements from the multiple stakeholders, or you just want to align the entire team on the same uh, pace of a project. Then you will conduct a requirement workshop. Okay, so this requirement workshop will have an agenda and objective, and sometimes it will take 1 or 1 hours to weeks. Okay, and you will call all the related and important invites to this requirement workshop, and you start gathering the requirements from all the groups to this requirement workshop. Okay, at the same time, if the workshop agenda is to align the project goal between all the stakeholders, then you will start resolving the issues what they are facing, so that they all come to a single agenda. Okay, and defining in this workshop, you will define objectives, you will identify stakeholders, create an agenda, and collaborate to facilitate the workshop with the key stakeholders, summarize findings and validates requirements. What is interview technique? So interview technique is nothing but it is an elicitation technique when you want to gather requirements person specific requirement. Okay, so it will mostly one-on-one interview technique. Sometimes it can be a group or individual, based on the requirements you are trying to get. Okay, so the purpose is to extract valuable insights, expectations, and needs from individuals involved in or affected by the project. You have two approaches, structured and unstructured. Structured interview is like, you will having a set of predefined questions. You will be asking those set of questions only. And unstructured interviews, you don't have any structured questions, but uh, by the answers of previous questions, you will come up with the new question. Okay, so it is a flexibility. And then we have questionnaire technique. So questionnaire technique is also a elicitation technique to gather data collections from a large group of stakeholders, sorry, people. Okay, so questionnaire technique, another name for this is a survey technique, where you will fill a form and pass it down through Google Forms or emails, whatever communication channels you build with your stakeholders, and you will gather the requirements uh, from the group of the stakeholders who are not available at the moment to conduct a interview technique. Okay, so you can see at the last line, questionnaire can be administered in various ways, including paper and pencil, online survey, or face-to-face interviews where the questions are read to the participants. So, and then coming to sort the requirements. So sorting the requirement is nothing but it's just uh, rearranging your requirements in a structured way. Okay, so basically, um, some ways for sorting requirements is to cap like structure the requirements based on its category. So some may be act as functional, non-functional categories. Some might be prioritizing, and some might be role sorting. Okay, so sorting requirement is a crucial step in the requirement management process, helping to organize, prioritize, and categorize them for effective analysis in implementation. Sorting is often done during the requirement elicitation and document phases of the project, based on functions versus non-functional requirements, priority sorting, user role sorting, time dependency sorting. We can sort the requirement. So at the last line, you can see how we can sort requirement in the different categories. Okay, prioritize the requirements. So prioritizing a requirement is a crucial step in the requirement management process, helping team focus on what is the most important for the success of the project. Prioritization is typically done based on factors such as business value, impact, and dependencies. One of the most common standard technique is Moscow: must, should, could, and would. So prioritization requirement is nothing but you will be having a bunch of requirements at a project. So all of them are not highly important at the moment. Okay, so you need a technique to prioritize all those requirements. So you will be up to the mark when you are delivering a outcome to a stakeholder. Okay, so if it is agile, you need to come up with the most highly impacted requirements to a user or a business. If it is a waterfall, then you need to come up with a highly important for a stakeholders requirements at first. Okay, so apart from this Moscow, you'll have different techniques called high BV and low CP. Like high BV value means business value and low complexity points. And then you have um, another technique called this RICE, RICE. So these are different types of techniques where you can prioritize your requirements. Okay, and then we have weekly status reporting. So weekly status reporting is a summary of all work done during a week and how these activities contributed to the completion of the task or a project, or how each one bring the team closer to the achievement of the target. So just like in our organization, every month or week, we will be giving a status report, right? So what's happened of the entire week. In the same way, we will create a report which is called weekly status reporting for every week, and we will give it to a stakeholder so that he can understand for that week what progress we have actually achieved. Okay, and you can say few questions in that report, like what you have been working on the recently, what you have been accomplished this week, what are your top priorities, what are your challenges going into next week. Meeting of minutes document. So MOM is very important document in corporate. So it is nothing but is a formal written document for the summarization of meeting. So in this document, you will be having all the details like agenda, discussion summary, and decisions made in that meeting, and if any actions are taken, who have that accountability, like who taken those actions, and who are the owners for that actions. Okay, and if there are any action items, you can mention those action items, and finally you will mention agenda for the next meeting. Okay, so the reason we create MOM document is to make sure that action items don't miss for the next uh, working procedure, because if you don't have a document, we will for surely forget about all the actions we have come up in that meeting, right? So, and one more thing is like mostly accountability. So people like at the moment they will come up with the new ideas and action items, but later on when we are giving those what we say involving in that project, most of them were forgot, or most of them will back down. We didn't give that kind of requirement or kind of things. Okay, so this MOM will act as a solid proof that who given those like actions, and who are the owners of it. So it act as a accountability proof. At the same time, for the next meeting, people can refer this document and they can start from that same phase. Okay, and what is change tracker document? In the name itself, it suggests it will track the doc all the changes happen to a document and log them in this table format. Okay, so you can have date, version number, document changes, whatever changes happen, and name, title, signature, and approved by. The difference between waterfall and agile methodology. So you can see like we all mostly know that the waterfall is a structured and agile is an iterative. That will be your first one. And flexibility and adaptability. Coming to flexibility and adaptability, waterfall is less flexibility because uh, it follows a rigid linear path. So you need to complete each step before you move to the next part. Whereas agile, it is an iterative and incremental. So you have a sprint which is 2 weeks of time. So you can accept new changes each time, where you can involve those changes in the upcoming sprint. So in this way, you embrace the changes. In coming to project planning, for waterfall, it required a detailed planning at the project starts and changes may be described. And for agile development, it is an incremental planning, welcome and accommodate changes, planning revisited regularly. So after each sprint, you will once again go through the product vision document and once again go to the that uh, timeline and understand where we are and what we need to do for the next sprint. Delivery of the software, we know that waterfall will deliver entire software at the end of the phase, and coming to agile, you will be delivering small functional units for each sprint in the agile model. Coming to client involvement, limited involvement during development, more at the beginning and ending. So beginning means the reason requirement gathering and analysis part, and end means UAT. And agile development will happen frequently, client collaboration throughout the development process. At the end of the sprint, you'll be having a sprint review meeting. No? So at that sprint review meeting itself, you will gather the feedback from the stakeholders, and based on those feedback, you will make sure based on the priority whether those changes or bugs need to be moved to the next sprint or not. Okay. Yeah, that will be the prep 3 part 2 team. Thank you for being here. Just a minute.